Psalm 11:3 says, if the foundations be destroyed, what can the righteous do? This has been a long process going on, folks. I referee high school basketball. A lot of basketball coaches think that I have living, breathing rules in the game. They say, call it both ways. I thought, what would a basketball game be like if we just changed the rules in the middle of the game? Sometimes you can dribble out of bounds, and sometimes you can shoot in their basket. Just change the rules. It'd be chaotic. Basketball rules aren't living and breathing. How possibly could the Constitution be a living, breathing document? It's a foundation. But it goes back to those first 10 that we talked about in the beginning. You know, there was a day when we went into school and 10 Commandments were on the wall, and they were on the wall at home, and they were on the wall in the church. And our kids said, you know what? Everywhere I go, they're teaching me the exact same thing. And the foundations have been destroyed, and here we are. What can the righteous do? We have to return to those values.
The United States Constitution says what it means, and it means what it says. And I am a strong, strict constructionist of the United States Constitution. The only way to amend the Constitution is through the formal amendment process. However, we have judges on the Supreme Court over the years that have no respect for the Constitution. They cite everything but the Constitution, including international law, which I find to be totally outrageous, way beyond their scope. And there is the unfortunate thing is most people believe that the Constitution says what 9 judges say what it says, and that's obviously not the truth. That's a corruption of the political process, and that's why it's important who gets elected, who gets appointed, and that's why those of us here want to see that changed, and that's why we're running for office is to put a stop to what we see has been a downhill spiral politically in America.
If the federal government is not forced to stick strictly to the limits that is placed on it in the Constitution, there will never be an end to this government. That's not me that said that. That was Davy Crockett back in the 1800s, stood up in Congress and quoted that. You think we've been fighting this battle for at least 150 years about the federal government overstepping the bounds of the Constitution when it is supposed to bind them, limit them, and control them. I don't know how you could write anything any simpler than Congress shall make no law. I don't think I could write that any simpler. I don't think any of us could write that any simpler. Congress shall make no law. It's pretty black and white.
The Constitution stands strong today, the same as the day it was written. When I was on the bench, I was a strict constructionist. I was never reversed on appeal because I understood that my duty was to interpret the law, that if I wanted to write laws, that I needed to run for the legislature. But our founding fathers were so brilliant that they were also forward-thinking, so that we don't need to apply the context of 1787 to today. We can take those words, and those words have specific meaning. Again, shall means shall. It's non-discretionary. It's mandatory. We can then look at those laws in today's day and age, because obviously we've got things today and we've got a society today that's different then. So it's not a living, breathing document. What it is it's a document that stands firm, but our society is different, our times are different, so we need to put it in the context of today, but not change those words, change the meaning or the fundamental foundation of that document, which just needs to be strictly construed. Judges do not and should not legislate from the bench.
Brian Shoemaker. Brian Shoemaker. Jason Bromberg.
Okay, I'm Jason. I'm a college student at The Ohio State University. My question goes to all candidates. And, as a younger college kid, I like the thought of action. And I want to hear from each of you guys on like any given topic, whether that be the healthcare bill, the UN, or whatever. I want to hear what your guys' thought of your first step toward action, towards fixing the problem is. Like, if you guys get elected and are in there, what's phase 1 or step 1 that you guys do?
That's a great question. Because one of the things that people ask me a lot, and probably everybody else that's up here, is, what's the first piece of legislation, that you're going to offer if you get elected? And my response to that is, first piece of legislation. Isn't that a big part of the problem? I mean, the last thing we need is more legislation. One of the most important things, I think, we got to slow this process down. We got to repeal some things that have been passed that are out and out wrong. They're irresponsible, they're unrighteous, and they're unconstitutional. And so the first thing you got to do when you get there is start banding together with others that are like-minded and saying, we've got to slow this process down. Don't you look forward back to the days? Remember when we used to say, man, it takes government forever to do something. Why can't they just get something done? How many of you would like to go back to those days when it just took forever for them to get anything done? That's the way it was intended to be.
I'm a team builder. I want to go to Washington, D.C. and find people who are like-minded. And as I said in one of the previous debates, the issue that I'm going to... Jobs are important, cap and trades and health, it's all important. But folks, if we do not stand up for little baby boys and little baby girls in their mommy's wombs, we will never, ever again have the blessings of God fall upon this land the way that we all want it to. And for those of you who maybe aren't Christian, or I offend you when I say that, the Constitution says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If you are a constitutionalist, you have to be for life. You have to support life from natural birth to natural death. The health, the death panels and all those things. So I'm going to go in there as a good coach, and I'm going to get the lay of the land and figure out who can block and who can tackle, and I'm going to try to put together a team of guys who are going to stand up again for the values that I believe most of you hold dear.
Well, I certainly agree with Aubrey. The first thing we have to do is stop the train. We have to. The legislative process is driven by the leadership. So you can introduce a piece of legislation if you want, but it's if you're not one of the blessed, it's not going anywhere. The first thing you have to do is get in there, and you have to form coalitions to stop the train of socialism, stop the liberalism, whether it's saving the babies or stopping those folks that would try to steal our constitutional rights to keep and bear arms, or even our other constitutional rights for that matter. We have to stop. And while the public opinion is strong, we got to fight this, try to reverse this healthcare bill. We've got to do whatever it takes to save healthcare in this country. And the misconception is that we need more regulation to fix something. No, the regulation's what's got us in the mess in the first place.
There's a couple things as far as legislation. Protecting life has got to be the number one issue. If we do not end abortion in this nation, children will never be safe on the street unless they're first safe in the womb. We have to get this right. That has to be the first as far as legislation. The other thing is helping other congressmen. We have a lot of congressmen who go up there, they say they're conservative. But then when they're backed into the corner, we see that they sway on a lot of their issues and a lot of their votes. We see that from a lot of them. What we need is somebody that can help educate them. This is why we're pro-life. This is why we believe in limited government. This is why we're a capitalist, and help strengthen and encourage other politicians to rise up together to say, no, I don't care if the Republicans want it or the Democrats want it. That is unconstitutional. Here's why it's unconstitutional, and we will make a stand against that. I believe I am the candidate that can help educate and encourage other candidates to rise up together.